way to get an account. Now, you could argue that there are solutions that are addressing this already, and you will be correct for some part of it, but the e-Naira is the next step, is the evolution that that is coming, and we just have to take value from it and then see where we go from there.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any question from anyone on the floor, anyone who's joining in physically? And do we have questions online as well? Please, if you have any questions, please indicate. Okay, I knew we were going to have enough questions. Okay, from the front, we've got 2 hands. Please, can you pass the microphone? Over there, we've got 2 hands or more. So please appreciate if you would keep it very straight to the point, the name and your question as fast as possible, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm a part of the TTSWG, that's the Telecommunication and Technology Sustainability Working Group. And we basically are driving for sustainability within the different industries, telecoms and technology. And we're talking about financial inclusion. And sustainability has to do with the ESG, economic, environmental, social, and governance. And when we talk about financial inclusion and innovation, I'm also thinking about inclusion for the physically disabled. These people are also included when we talk about inclusion. And I don't really see how most of these innovations are responding to those needs for, say, the blind or the deaf, for instance. How does the e-Naira respond to their needs, for instance? With physical cash, there are some monies that probably have Braille on them. And I don't see how, for instance, these touchscreen POSs that we have, I don't necessarily see Braille services or voice-enabled services on those things. So how does the innovation that comes from these financial services attend to other social, yes, include those other people?
Okay, thank you very much. Do you want to take a stab at that before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, thank you. It would be unfair to talk about financial inclusion without actually talking about those vulnerable groups. And I would say it goes back to all of us. I mean, considering the fact that e-Naira is designed to actually drive innovation, and this innovation layer we're talking about is actually to address some new areas that has not been addressed before. And I would say that in the last hackathon event that the central bank actually had, I mean, we were really excited to see there was a specific use case regarding the physically challenged. And we are presently driving some sessions with those innovators to ensure that we bring in those functionalities. And yes, the e-Naira has been designed for that modularity where innovators can actually seamlessly plug in, and then we can have all these wonderful improvements in financial inclusion. So let me stop there for now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please, I'd like us to indicate, because I find that I want to get a round of applause and a standing ovation by keeping to time. I don't want to be guilty of the rule that we set together. So I would like us to indicate if we have questions now. So we note people who have questions now so that questions don't trigger further questions later. Please just raise your hand high, and then we'll just take numbers 1, 2, and 3. So we just have 3 questions. All right, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Babalola, Operator Observer from Oseke. Okay, my question is, please, as per the regulation, is airtime prohibited from being a medium of exchange? That's my question. And the reason why I asked is, what my organization does, I'm from Platinum, is the solution. So we have a mobile applications that allows you to transact with your airtime. Your airtime, it's a means of exchange. Like if you have airtime now, you can transfer it from one network to another, from MTN to Glo via our mobile application. You can convert your airtime to cash via our applications, and then you can use your airtime to pay bills. So basically on Tuesday, I was in a meeting with one of the top guys in InterSwitch. Actually, I was in a meeting with someone, so they had to call the lady, one of their top executive person, and he said airtime is prohibited from being a medium of exchange. So I really want to get clarification on that. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So, airtime is not money. To be very specific. So, in terms of what should be used as money, there are functions of money that, there are characteristics of money that should be met. And airtime as a closed network, a closed network asset that is being used within a network. By that is that the telecoms sector is just one sector of the economy. Now money have universal usage. So you cannot use such closed network assets as a replacement for money. You can use them for some wonderful futures, but not as a replacement for money. And there's a lot of things that makes money what it is. And I wish I would have the opportunity to tell you how those things are not inside the airtime. So really, it's not money, but of course, it's something we need to educate ourselves about. Legal tender are enabled by law. We have a lot of private money today, but legal tender is in its own category that you have to also understand. So we need to really educate ourselves about these things. I wish I have time to talk about these technicalities, but I'm not sure the time will permit us here. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I'm between the, I don't know, he says, I wish I had more time. But then I'm looking at the time and thinking that if I say you have more time, you will not get a standing ovation. So unless I'm a person under authority, unless I am told that we have extra time for this, we just need to work with the time we have. But thank you for your response. Number 2 and number 3, please, can we take the questions simultaneously? Immediately we take number 2, let's take number 3 and respond to them at once. Thank you.
Hello, yeah. My name is Sally. My question goes to the two of you at a different rate. I might start with you, sir. You made mention of a very good example of a town in Ekiti that infrastructure was lacking, right? So it's fine, infrastructure is lacking and essentially that's where fintech comes in to extend to those places where the banks cannot service essentially, and this gives rise to where we are today in fintech. But the challenge now is, I don't know if you can speak to that, is infrastructure is still lacking. The concept of e-Naira, it's still a digital currency, right? And no matter, even if you're not seeing a physical infrastructure, there is a digital infrastructure behind that drives it. So you're talking to the concept of wallets, apps, and the rest. And still, these people in these locations, the digital literacy in Nigeria, #1, is extremely low. So to use e-Naira, for example, I myself that I'm a bit tech savvy, I'm finding it difficult. Okay, I need to get a wallet from an e-Naira wallet before I can use it. I have to sign up, and till today I don't have an e-Naira wallet because of the restriction in the signing up. I had to go and update my BVN that is lacking email or something. My email is not matching. How does that solve the problem of the common man that is a farmer that probably doesn't even have an Android or an iOS phone, is using something that is powered by USSD? His digital literacy is low, and he needs to buy yam from the same person. I don't understand that. So how does the e-Naira come in to solve that in that regard?
Now, because of time, we may need to just take that one so that we can take the third question.
The short one is a very small, it's a one-line question. Does e-Naira have a public API for fintechs to consume, because without that, I don't see how the fintechs will benefit from it.
Okay, let's start with Mujib. If you can please take it as brief as possible, please.
Okay. The digital infrastructure is still a problem, right? And that's not going to go away anytime soon. But what is good about where we are with the inner story is that the traditional channels, USSD, and it's been extended to the agency network as well. Now, part of the things we've done, right, at Remita is that you can actually get your wallet, right, without too many drama, right? As with any product, you learn as you move. But as our regulators have decided to follow us in the learning journey, and we fintech players have been in school for the last God knows how many years. So we've figured out how to do these things in terms of create products that goes retail. The app has come a long way. There's been issues with the kind of things you mentioned, but it's not a problem of in-app per se, right? It goes back to that infrastructure as well. I remember that the drive behind getting BVN and even getting NIM, right, was fraught with a lot of similar issues trying to sort that out. And this is just bringing that forward for them to be sorted, right? So yeah, in the beginning, we're gonna have these issues, but we've crossed that issue in terms of trying to get wallets and stuff.
Thank you so much, Mujib. We've got about 30 seconds before.
Okay, in terms of APIs are available, and what we've done at Remita is actually further simplified access to those APIs. You can catch up with me later to get more details on that.
All right.
Okay, so thank you, Mujib, he's the right person to answer the question of API because he is coming from the ecosystem, so he has used the APIs and he can attest to that. So, but I just wanted to say a few things regarding the new drive for financial inclusion. We can see the INERA as actually the effort from the regulator to push the boundaries of the existing cashless initiative beyond where they were before. So new technology is one of the opportunities that has come. So we have new tools to build new possibilities. For example, we talk about offline payments today. Imagine my grandmother in the village can wear a locket, just a chip in the form of a locket, and she can walk to any kiosk on the street, and based on that locket and backed with a fingerprint, she can receive money. It can be as simple as that. What the CBN has done is actually to, the architecture of this new payment system that will make this scalability, the kind of foundation that needs to be laid for this new innovation to be built. That is, you should see in era. The CBN do not intend to build all the possibility by itself. The CBN only wanted to build the foundation, that new foundation that has the building block that can support this elasticity. That's all the CBN is trying to do, and that's what the CBN has done. And we can talk about that as much as we have.
Thank you very much. We'll talk about it. One more, okay. So although we've run out of time, I've been instructed as a person under authority to take one more question. So please include it in our time. Thank you. Please, let's take our one question. Thank you. So whose question are we taking? Yes, please pass the microphone. So we have extra time.
All right, thank you. My question is to the CBN. I want to reiterate, and probably by way of a question also, when we talk about the financial inclusion, bringing it down home my name is Deborah Oni, the managing partner of Hilton Top Solicitors, and I have a passion for women inclusion in the tech space and the emerging technology and all that. And so I want to know what measures is being taken by the CBN of all these various formulations and policies. It's easy to do that, right? But the implementation, and when I talk about women inclusion, I'm going down to not just the women that are in here, but I mean the women in the rural area. For me, on my platform of the Hilton Top Solicitors, we have an aspect that we're already doing something for the women. So what is the measures that are being put in place by the CBN to consider these women to be able to have a full inclusion? And then, of course, the women in the rural areas who probably will have their phones and sometimes lock it all up and cannot transact. They don't even have an idea. And we have to take that intentional step. So what intentional steps are being considered in the various policies that are being formulated? Thank you.
The national.
Sorry, apologies for interrupting. I've been informed that we can take one more. So what if we take that one and then you respond to the both of them together?
I think this
You'd prefer
woman
to take this
inclusion
specially?
thing is
Okay.
is a bit critical.
Okay.
So,
Please go ahead.
I mean, with all respect to the women, we should talk about that. Okay, so so in the whole gamut of financial inclusion drive, we know that there are specific demographics that we're looking at. Women stands out. I mean, to be given special attention, and especially the one that are, I mean, a bit outside the reach of the financial services. So, you know, in the strategy for financial inclusion, we have this framework for inclusion for women, and in ERA specifically, I will talk about the National Collateral Registry, where we can actually take the movable assets of women. Women always have valuable assets in the form of trinkets, even if it is old. So, and you know, for micro loans, micro access to all these things, we can take all these assets, tokenize them, and make them possible. I mean, make it possible for women to have access to credit. And thank God we can have programmable credit today, isn't it? We can have more, and the risk is driven low. So that's one area that we are targeting. I mean, specifically, the National Collateral Registry is one area that we are trying to make sure that even the adornments and raiment that the women wear, we can use it as a collateral, and women can continue to have access and be carried along, even in the era. Thank you.
Okay, so one more question. I'm told that we can take one more question from over there. Someone who has been raising a hand for quite some time.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, panelists. My name is Aderonke. I'm from the Nigerian Communications Commission. I'd like to speak to Remita. First and foremost, fantastic. You went to Ekiti. But my question is this: how many people in Ekiti know about e-Naira? I know that the Commission has been working assiduously with the CBN to promote and to ensure financial inclusion is achieved. But the truth be told, the speaker before, the penultimate speaker, did say about awareness. That cannot be undermined. Then the second thing is, with a show of hands around this room, how many people own an e-wallet, e-Naira wallet? We are supposed to be the enlightened ones. How many of us? So I can imagine my grandmom, who is in Ekiti, in that market. How do they know, or how will she know what e-Naira is? I congratulate CBN for their 1-year celebration, our anniversary of the launch of e-Naira, but there's a lot to be done. We need to create awareness. You need to let people know, especially the unbanked, what and why I should pick up e-Naira wallets, especially where there are no banking institutions. Then my last summation is to the gentleman in front that did speak about use of airtime. The NCC and the CBN, amongst other government agencies, have discussed this at various fora and at various levels. The use of airtime for transaction is illegal in Nigeria. The only recognized money or legal tender, as earlier said, is Naira and cover. So if you're going to use airtime, even with the operators, you cannot convert 100 naira credit to 100 naira as it is. There are lots of factors embedded into that 500 naira credit. So you need to be educated. If you want to have more discussions, we have representatives from NCC. Please reach out to us. And I'm sure you do not have an NCC approval to carry out that business you're doing. In other words, that's not allowed and it's an illegal business. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. So that was a feedback. You want to take a quick comment?
Okay. So there's a lot of local grassroots drive that is happening. I've witnessed it myself in a lot of road shows promoting e-Naira in places like that. And I like the fact that you ask people how many people have e-Naira. And I see a few hands. It's a thing of progression, right? I was not around when cowries changed into notes, right? I don't know how that happened, but I'm sure it's the same thing we're witnessing. I remember when cryptocurrency started, I mean, back when I was still mining cryptos on laptops and the rest of it, right? Nobody knew about it. It was just a technology thing. But look at it today. So everything needs time. And we in this room need to begin to critique the design, the strategy, and come up with winning solutions. There's a lot of opportunities. A lot of opportunities can be tapped. Somebody mentioned, creating devices and software for, that has Braille for the blind and the rest. That is a problem to be solved. And nobody thinks about payments. Nobody should really think about payment because payment should really be ubiquitous, right? They just want to buy bread and get onto buses and trains and the rest of it, right? So those are solutions to solve. Now, I believe that before the end of next year, a lot more people are going to have e-Naira because on Remita, for instance, has an outlet to use it and get it. If more solutions providers do same, before you know it, things are going to happen. And lastly, if you think about the amount of money we as a nation, right, spend on minting notes, just thinking of that alone for me is enough incentive for me to say, you know what, I'm going to do my bit and try these solutions out. So I think we're all responsible for making this work, right? It's not us versus CBN, we're where we are. We need to move forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And on that note, with 46 seconds left, just right there on the screen, we're done with this session. A round of applause for Adeolu Fade and Muji Bishola. I'd like to ask the president of FinTech NGR, the COO, and the vice president to please join in for photograph, quick group photograph. And any member of the board of trustees of FinTech NGR should please come in to join us for a photograph.
Please, an opportunity to say just a closing remark. e-Naira is strategically designed to bring in new players into the ecosystem. And who are these new players? The FinTech. So please, we cannot have all the time here to on stage, but there's an e-Naira booth over there with people who are waiting to answer your questions. So, and I will also be there for a while after the session. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. So please visit the exhibition booth to see the e-Naira booth and for more networking. The president, the vice president, members, board of trustees of FinTech NGR, and the COO, please, sirs, come join the photograph. I think I should be.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So we're moving on to the next session, but before the next session, I think this is a great time for us to have some icebreakers. I usually don't like us sitting for too long. The next session is a panel discussion. And before the panel discussion, I'd like us to have a quick networking icebreaker. So please, ladies and gentlemen, apologies for making you stand too long, but I did explain that standing helps us, to exercise, and it also helps us, to stay physically strengthened. So please, let's stand. We're coming with the selfie break this time around. Yes, selfie break. Please, may I ask that we please stand? Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. May I ask that we please stand? And just what we did yesterday, but this time around, please don't look for people who you probably didn't sit around them yesterday, and bring out your mobile device, and please, let's take a selfie, a picture of one another. You could take a video, you could take a picture. Let's just take a picture that captures this event. A white selfie would be great. Really like the networking that is going on. And yesterday we did a video where we said FinTech NGR. I think this time around we can just say NFW in our video. Are we good to go? So please, ladies and gentlemen, if you look to the screen, I'm going to be taking the video from here. And I would just like everyone to echo NFW. And I will try, and I'll appreciate if the video people would also try to cover everyone. So we say NF. Oh, we're not ready. We say NF. So after we say NFW, we then say Nigeria FinTech Week. Can we do that? Okay, something for social media. NFW and Nigeria FinTech Week. 1, 2, go. NFW, Nigeria FinTech Week. No, we didn't quite capture that. We're at Nigeria FinTech Week and the echo wasn't even loud enough for us. That sounded like just a community's FinTech Week. This is Nigeria FinTech Week. Let's do it again. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So are we ready? Okay. NFW. Okay, we're going to do it one more time. Thank you. Okay, from this side, let's start. NFW, Nigeria FinTech Week. NFW, Nigeria FinTech Week. Thank you so much. I appreciate the enthusiasm. Please have your seat, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Please indulge us. Every now and then, we want to make sure that you're fit and, you're not sitting for too long. you're taking some exercise, you are networking. So please indulge us. This conference is a cocktail of learning and fun. So in between the learning, we'll put in so much fun. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's take our seat as we get ready for the next session. Okay, please let's take our seat. We'll have ample opportunity to network as the conference continues. Thank you. Okay, I would appreciate if the ushers will help just urge and prompt people to please, just for some time, please take their seat as we get ready to continue the session. Thank you. So the next session is a very important one. It's something that affects the fintech ecosystem. We're talking about talents. Very important. Let me ask a quick question. I mean, just from my own thoughts. Is anybody familiar with the word Japa? Anybody familiar with the word Japa? Okay, if you're familiar, please raise your hands. If the person beside you is not familiar, please can you explain to them what Japa means? You know, I was at a conference and the person said Japa. I said, wow, that's a touche way of putting it. It's called Japa. But this session is focused on talents, global talents. And it's going to be talking about how wide the talent gap is. Ladies and gentlemen, please, can we take our seats? Please, can we take our seats? Thank you very much. Please take your seat. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll just wait for the people who are standing to take their seat before we continue. Okay, thank you. We'll just wait for you to take your seat before we continue. Thank you. Okay, so it's a go ahead for me to continue then. Now the panelists, I'm going to be inviting the panelists, and as is our custom, please give them a resounding applause. First on the list to talk about the sustainable pipeline of competitive and global talent. First panelist is Lekon Akinjide, Director of Partnerships at Now. A round of applause for Lekon Akinjide, please. Thank you. We've also got Arseny Tretiakov, Chairman of the FinTech Start Association in Russia. A round of applause for him, please.
Yeah, hello.
I believe he's joining virtually.
Yeah.
So I'll quickly call up the moderator so that the moderator picks a preferred seat quickly. Lola Aworanti Ekugo, Chief Digital Officer at FBN Quest. Welcome, Lola, with a round of applause. Okay, we've also got Oyin Johnson Awoni, Senior Legal and Compliance Officer at the room. Welcome, ma'am. Dr. Patrick Conte, CEO, Africa FinTech Week. A round of applause for Dr. Patrick. I believe Dr. Patrick is joining in virtually. We've got Bola Olusonya, Chief Country Manager at Tech Experts. Okay, and without further ado, I'll be handing over to the moderator.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a great pleasure to be here talking about this important topic. As the MC has said, this is a really big issue. I think if you speak to, in fact, 10 people today, I'm sure 8 youths will say they want to leave the country. And I think we're all feeling it in our different organizations today. So this is a very important topic, and I'm glad we have key people to discuss this as well. Okay, is she coming up? Are you coming up as well? So we have Uchechi who will join us on the panel as well. A round of applause for her as well. So I'll just let her take a seat. Okay. All right, so just before we go into the discussion, I think it's important to pull up a couple of statistics as to what is actually happening around the world, because this is actually a global issue. I've had a look at some of the research on ground, and we've seen that there's a Korn Ferry report which says that in 2030, we should expect that there's potentially going to be about 85 million shortages in jobs. So, no, actually, there'll be availability of jobs, but a shortage in the amount of people that can actually fill that role. So I think that's a big shortage, and that's over the next 10 years. Now, if we zoom down into Africa, right? Africa has a population of about 1.4 billion people. And in terms of developers, so technology talents, we have just about 800,000 people. So this is including the whole of Africa, professionals, okay? And then if we take that into Nigeria as well, we have, I looked at different reports, and on an average, about 100,000. And I'm sure that number is depleting by the day. Now I'm going to take another country, and this is India. India in itself has about 1.6 billion people. And as of now, they have about 5 million developers working in India. So can you just do that comparison yourself? You know, we have in the whole of Africa about 800,000, but in India, they have about 5 million. And as of 2017, so that was 5 years ago, they had about 2.5 million. So in the past 5 years, they've managed to double their technology talent. And I think that this is very important because, you know, we all know where the world is going. So I'm going to open up to my panelists and just to hear everyone's view. What is your experience on this topic? Do you actually even have a talent problem? What do you think the cause is? So maybe we can start with Oyin here, if you could go ahead.
Yeah,
So
sure.
just 2 minutes here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lola. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oyin Johnson Awoni. I work with The Room, and we are a tech talent service provider. So in answer to your question, yes, we have a talent problem. There, you already referred to the statistics. My understanding of it is actually $8.5 trillion talent deficit. And this is global. So the Amazons and the sales forces of this world are saying, look, the amount of talent we need to hire in the next 10 years is in the hundreds of thousands, and we don't know where they're going to come from. Yeah. Right? So there is definitely a problem all round, and I guess it behoves on us to find a way to solve that problem. That's what we're trying to do at The Room, but there are a lot of stakeholders that need to come together to solve the talent problem. Of course, we have the issue in Africa with the brain drain, and we are experiencing it quite a bit here with Jakba, as she mentioned earlier. But yeah, absolutely, there's a talent problem, and something needs to be done about it.
Okay, thank you. If we could go to Mr. Bolahon. So what do you think is causing it, if you're experiencing it, of course?
Okay, I mean, every industry, every sector is experiencing JAPA, and the statistics, like you mentioned, they are correct. But what we do in Tech Expertise, we try to reverse what is going on globally. So like you mentioned, right now we have 800,000 developers in Africa. And the world is looking to Africa by 2030, 2035 to be the talent pool, to be able to supply talent to the entire world. That is what India was 20 years ago, and they've been able to develop their market over a period of 20 years. So in Tech Expert, what we do is try to reverse the system and look into our market. You have, on the average, about 600,000 university graduates every year, except when ASU goes on strike. And at the other side, you have 35% unemployment. So we have a skilling company, Elevate, that is responsible for training and upskilling them. And we have Tech Expert that is into IT outsourcing. So today, we have 2,000 software engineers that are based in Lagos, and they are providing specialized technical support to the Microsoft, the HP, the Micro Focus, and the big organizations in different parts of the world.
Thank you very much. We'll go deep into that discussion very soon. And I think I'll go to the Now team. What's your experience? What do you think is causing this talent problem?
Yeah, I think that yes, indeed, there is a talent problem. But I think more so, at least from my experience, what's most pressing is the expertise, the need for expertise, right? So in my experience, I find that in Nigeria, a lot of tech talents are self-developed, self-taught. So there's a lot of need for education, for training, for grooming these talents as well. I mean, you're making the comparison with India. India has a lot of, schools, universities that treat these courses, and a lot of big names came from these schools, and they are not lacking in terms of mentorship or coaching or guidance. And you find, for instance, openings that need 5, 10 years experiences. What literally, we weren't talking about Android developers or full stack engineers 10 years ago, So there's a need to, I see the talents, but there's a need to coach them and guide them to actually match up with the world standard. I think what the other speakers talk about from tech experts, having trainings and schools, that offer these training opportunities is good. But at the same time, companies should be open to coaching and mentorship opportunities for young talents. Don't necessarily insist on 10 years, 5 years experience. At least bring in interns, let them shadow, more experienced people. And again, with the brain drain, there's a need to, nurture our young talents and ensure that they're able to match up.
Don't tell us all the answers now.
All right.
We're going to get there. Thank you. I'll go online. I don't know if Dr. Conte is online as well before I go to Asanai. Okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
But please, Asani, if you can tell us your perspective. Asana is the chairman of the FinTech Start Association in Russia. So it'll be interesting to hear his view on what's happening.
Hello everyone. And I would like to describe briefly a situation that we have also with now a huge talent problem in Russia since beginning of war conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Our countries faced with a problem of losing good talents, especially in software development and finance. For example, I don't know, around 50,000 software engineers left Russia and moved to Armenia, neighbor country. And it happens with different areas, especially in IT and finance. And people moved to neighbor countries. Also, otherwise startup teams, especially, for example, fintech or projects which work with digital banking and etc., they started to find new markets. And the reason why many of them ask to introduce me to ask me to introduce them with Nigerian banks and corporations, and Russian companies started to search Asian and African markets to find and implement new digital products. Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me? I found out it's not just me, but you're a bit muffled, so we're struggling to hear you. I don't know if it's something you can correct.
Okay. Do you hear now or not?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better if I go. Yeah, if I go slowly. Okay. So I will repeat. So now we are losing a lot of talents, especially in IT and finance. For example, 50,000 people moved out from Russia to neighbor Armenia, and more people went to other countries as Kazakhstan or Georgia, Serbia or Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. So it's quite a lot. But from another hand, a lot of, for example, startup teams, they started to find new markets. And the reason why many of them asked me to introduce them to these Nigerian banks and corporations. And also Russian companies started to search Asian and African markets to find and implement new digital products and software instead of European and American. So we have so our talents problem became very strange because people started to go to other countries about where they didn't thought to live before. And instead,
so sorry, Asani, we're really, really struggling. What I'm
Okay.
thinking is I'll come back to you because
Okay.
I'm sure you're sharing really valuable insights. So I'll come back to you again. If you just try and work on the speaking, it'll be great.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So I'll just move quickly on to the next question. And I think, a lot of times when we're talking about tech talent, and even in Nigeria now, there's a focus on tech. But I think it would be good to hear, and I think from probably Oyin, just because of what you do in your industry, on what you think, what other industries do you think are affected by this?
I think the short answer is I don't think there's any industry that is not affected. So yes, I work with the room, and we focus on training and placing tech talent. But I am a lawyer, so I can say even I'm trying to hire now, and it's a bit of a struggle to find people who have the requisite skill set for what's required to perform on a global stage. I think increasingly as we stop competing with the man next to us, technology is a leveler, right? It gives, to a large extent, equal opportunity, right? And so what that means is that we're no longer competing with the person next door to us. We are now competing with people in other African countries and people across the world. So it's creating an issue where it's no longer okay for the talent to just be average, because you can access talent of the highest quality across the world and across the continent. But it's also for the employers, if you're not providing the kind of benefits, the kind of pay that talent can get from somewhere else, they're going to go to the highest bidder. So I think it's particularly endemic in tech talent because of the level of technical expertise required. But I think it's actually a general thing cutting across industries, governments, banks, and particularly, of course, as we've said, fintechs and other technology companies.
Thank you so much. And I think that gives a good insight because it's basically everywhere, even doctors, nurses. I mean, it's huge at the moment. And we're going to talk about talent and average, or I would say mediocre, very shortly. But before we go there, I want us to talk about the fact that, yes, a lot of people are leaving, but is that necessarily a bad thing for the country? Because, we need to ask ourselves those questions. Some people encourage that people leave the country and come back better trained to equip, the country. There's a diaspora impact as well. So I would like, to hear from, I guess, Lekon or Uchechi, and also yourselves on what your views are on that, please.
Hello. I think, first of all, we just have to change our mindsets, how we approach everything. And I'll use technology as an example in terms of employment within technology. Anybody that has worked with any engineers know every engineer is doing like 7 jobs at the same time. They moonlight, they work for multiple companies, competitors, and I think employers have to be very honest with themselves and say that having a full and exclusive engineer, other people within that space is just very unrealistic. That's the first thing. Until you actually face that paradigm and say, do you know what, be a contractor, my IP is exclusive to me, but you could go and do whatever you want to do, but you meet my own KPIs and OKRs, do whatever you want, I don't care. That's the first hurdle. The second issue, COVID was like an awakening of disruption for every sector, be it technology, banking, transportation. But in Nigeria, we want to go back to the old way, everybody back in the offices, everybody clocking in, paper, pen. It's like we haven't accepted the reality of what COVID has done. accept that technology is an enabler, a driver of efficiency. So I think that psychological block, until it's removed, will continue to be a hurdle for every industry in Nigeria. But finally, I think, like you said, moving and migrating from Nigeria should not be seen as a bad thing. As long as we accept remote working for what it is, people are going to work within their own comfort zone. Again, as long as they meet the objectives of their employer, the objectives of their contract, it's not an issue. So we have to be a lot more dynamic, a lot more flexible, and a lot more fluid. And if we don't do that, we're still going to be very inefficient, and people will simply leave Nigeria, find jobs that meet their own requirements. Again, I'm a very old man, I'm not a Gen Z, but you have Gen Zs who put their mental health, their priorities, their well-being, and their happiness above everything else. You're going to be seeing a lot more of that, and you're going to, unfortunately, see dinosaurs like me being the talent that is left for people to actually use. You know, I don't mind doing multiple jobs, but the reality is, unless we're able to shift our mindset and how we see employment, and we see employment as an opportunity to expand rather than being a slave to the sector, to the industry, things will not change.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's for the people. Please, your views as
Okay, I think I'm aligned with most of the things they have said. But what I would just love to add to that is research has it that at this time around, employers must be willing to invest in upskilling their employees. You must look long term and say, these are my projects, these are the XYZ I want to achieve, and you must be willing to invest, because developers now every 6 months want to learn new technologies. Some of them, it goes beyond the financial aspect. They just want to do something different and do so many things at the same time. So you must be willing to engage them, train them, and also give them the exposure that is required. And one thing that I'll also talk about, I think, it's we have also tried to increase the number of women in technology. So 4 years ago, we had 10% of our team that were women. Out of 200 people qualifying 20. But today, we have 30% of our team that are women. So I have about 450 software support engineers that are women, and they've also been able to provide stability in the operations. We have leaders within the organization that are women that are able to help stabilize the business and others. So I think really we need to invest. And about people leaving Nigeria, it will always continue to happen. But the question is, we have 30% of our people that are unemployed. These are millions, so we need to invest in upskilling them. The Indian you made reference to, I think they do more immigration than us. You find them in every country, everywhere in the world. But you see companies that are running 100,000 software developers in India, because right from secondary school, they started upskilling them to get involved in software development. That is the gap we need to fix in Nigeria.
Thank you. I'll speak to that, or let me just say it now. So for me, technology is something I'm very passionate about, because my first job was as a software engineer. So I used to be a coder those days, and I wonder whether I should have, risen up or just stayed as a developer, because it seems to be what's hot on the market. But those days we were like, I was so rare. I mean, in a room of maybe 13 other developers, I was the only woman. So it's really good to hear what you guys are doing. And I know a lot of other organizations are doing that as well. So I'll speak to that. I'll come over to Asani. Please, if you tell us your views just on this diaspora impact. Do you think, is it really a bad thing that people are leaving?
Yeah, I hope now it's you can hear me. It's a good and bad, but it's as an example how it was happened in 90s in Russia. After crash of Soviet Union, many people left Russia, but later they understood that they can get more opportunities at home, because capitalism just came there, and they returned and started new businesses, IT companies. Kind of some of them because kind of started very scam business, but it's bad stories. We have good examples. So I guess many people who went for a study and job to, for example, to Europe, to the USA, they will return and become kind of accelerator of economic growth because they can get experience, they can see, and then after that they can realize that they gain more, I don't know, opportunities, possibilities, money, and their homeland. So yeah, I hope it normal process and people will return how it was happened in 90s and beginning of 2000s in Russia, because in this time, kind of growth of GPT and economics was so fast, and when time of capitalism bring new technologies, people could realize and get more gains, scores in Russia than it's abroad. So I hope it will happen, for example, in Nigeria, I guess, and other African countries.
Okay, thank you, Asani. I must say we did struggle, but I think I picked up something around that there's a good part as well. And I can just even expand a little more on that, that countries like Vietnam, for instance, they've done a lot of work recently in bringing the people from diaspora to build the country. And that has been really huge for them in terms of what is done for the economy. But I'll move on to the next question now. And that also speaks to what Oyin was speaking about before. So there's a bit of a fear from people who are left that we may be left with mediocre talents. So given that, I mean, a lot of people are leaving the country, working remotely, there's a possibility that we may be left with mediocre talent. There's a statistics from McKinsey that says that good talent is 8 times more productive than average talent, right? And then there's also the thought that, okay, whose responsibility is it really to improve this talent pool? Some employers say that, well, what's the point? You know, after all, I may train, you know, I don't know, somebody today. And, you know, in fact, as you are training them, they already are processing Canada. And potentially, by the time they are done, they are leaving. And there's not much you can do. So I would like to hear views. And I think, Oyin, you touched on that already. If you can just continue, and I'll ask a few people.
On the quality of talent?
On the quality of talent. And how do we really improve it? You know.
So the interesting thing about JACBA, it's happening, absolutely. But how many people in Nigeria? 200 million?
200 million?
That we know, that we've counted, there are a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? That's the idea. There are a lot of people in Nigeria, and there is a certain level of available funds you need to have to this Canada we're talking about to be able to JACBA there. So yes, there's a lot of people going, but there's a lot more people that are here. I think water will find its level. People want to be successful, and they're going to explore the best possible options for them. But there's still a lot of people that are left in the country, and we should focus more on developing the infrastructure, developing the educational system. I mean, I'm a technology lawyer. I'm not really sure if that existed in any tangible way, 20 years ago, maybe even 10. I speak to a lot of people, a lot of young people, and we talk about Web 3.0, Industry 4.0. I'm sure those things never came up in the entire degree that they did, except if they were in maybe computer science degrees. But the point is, there's a lot that can be done with the people that are left to increase the level of talent. So yes, from a governmental perspective, there's a lot to be done there, as individuals as well. So I was saying earlier at the room, we train talent. Next year, we're going to be training cloud computing, talent, data scientists. We've recently this year, we trained over 75,000 people with, virtual assistants. So many, there are courses out there that you can take, right? And upskill yourself. And on the kind of the JACBA front, the other side of what we do is placing talent, African talent, not just Nigerian, African talent with global companies. So we have people in Rwanda, for example, we have 8 software developers who's just started working in Rwanda for a company in the US. That's going back to the point he made about being open to remote work. So if you're open to remote work and you focus on KPIs, OKRs, deliverables, then you can have people actually upskilled, right? And they stay within the country, within the continent, and they still perform services and create value for foreign companies, but then the value doesn't leave the country. You know what I mean? So I don't know, I think we need to reframe the conversation and not have this gloomy view of this talent thing. It's really not that deep and it's not that bad. We just have to be open-minded and realize that business as usual is not going to work. You cannot be looking at your staff and eyeing them. What have you done today? That doesn't work anymore. And if you're open to that, then the possibilities are endless.
Thank you. Thank you. We hear you. And I'm sure a lot of people here will be interested in your company after this conversation as well. But I think it'll be interesting to hear from Uchechi as well on this bit about, should you really invest in the talents because of what's happening?
So to answer your first question, I would say that it is everyone's responsibility, both the government, the employer, and even the employee themselves, the talents themselves. I think as a nation, generally, we're quite reactive in nature, right? So all of a sudden there's a brain drain and now we want to fix it. If Nigeria was a better country, I'm sorry to say, why would anyone want to leave? If the employee packages, compensations, benefits were great, why would anyone want to leave to be a second-class citizen elsewhere, you know? So I think that improving employee benefits and packages, making it mouth-watering, making it attractive to a competitor like Google or Amazon, just like Onyi said, where your competition is no longer the next door neighbor or the next startup that's happening. You're on a world stage now. That's the pros and cons of technology. You're now on a world stage. You're competing against a package from Amazon or a Google or a Meta, you know? So it is everyone's responsibility. If we had better, I mean, transportation or roads and all of that, who would want to leave? At the same time, you're thinking, I'm going to train these people and they're going to leave. But if your package is better, it's more watery, it's more, you know, accommodating. Everyone wants to take care of themselves. Everyone has family, everyone has bills to pay. And unfortunately, it gets to the highest bidder for some people. Some people you meet and they're really passionate about their craft in Nigeria and they want to stay great. But again, if you meet people like that, reward them, you know, make them hungry to stay, make them desirous of staying. Don't, you know, find the talent and then you want to drain every single thing and then they're having to compete with other great companies. It really doesn't balance up. And to another point, I think that, again, it's also a long run, you know, input. You're not going to see the outcome now, because as we also have the role of, you know, putting back to the community as employers. You know, you're not necessarily training the next talent to retain them. How about you train for better, you know, a better country or a more competitive pool of talent to have? And again, if Nigerians are going, you as well, you can also employ people from India as well. I mean, we're talking about remote work. You can employ talent from Angola, from Kenya. You know, you don't necessarily have to employ everyone from Nigeria. You can also move around. And again, with the different sort of mindsets, the different backgrounds, you're also bringing in flavor into your company as well. So it shouldn't be a bad thing, but at the same time, it's a call for everyone to wake up and do better, because the competition now is on the world stage.
Thank you so much. And I think something important that two of you have said is really about the mindsets, how there needs to be, and I think Lekon touched on it as well, a mindset shift for employers today. You know, it's not going to be business as usual, right? Just as you said, you may be training, a person may leave your company, but really think about the country. At least it's a better place. You don't know if they will come back tomorrow or what impact they would have. So I think that's really, really important, that a mindset shift is required. You know, you can't be tracking people the way you were tracking them. I mean, it should really be about your work being done, you know, and delivering. I think that should be, you know, a key focus. So I'm going to move to the next question. And I think this is really the meat of the matter. You know, how do we really bridge this talent problem? How do we bridge this gap? And I would ask Bolahun to speak to that first, and then Lekon and Asani as well, please.
Wow, okay.
How do we do it?
Okay, like when you mentioned earlier on, we are a country of over 200 million people. The talent is there. As an employer, you must be willing to invest in continuous education for your employee. And as a nation too, both private and government, we must be willing to invest in our people, to train them and know that tech talent is the new oil. And we did a pilot with Microsoft early this year, where we took 125 people from non-tech background. We ran them through a 3-month intensive program on software development. And by the last week of their program, 85% of them got jobs. Now, we are looking to do a similar thing to train over 1 million people over the next 5 years in software engineering. That is the future. And what organizations also need to understand, and what he mentioned is, you can no longer own this person as an employee to do 8 to 5, clock in, clock out, invest in the person, and expect 5-year long service award or 10-year long service award. Gone are those days. What we should begin to look at is, right now, we are beginning to do tech talent as a service, which is outsourcing. So you have organizations who have projects, or you want to keep software developers, you can focus on your 30% top talent in-house while we outsource the 70% for you, because I can invest in them. And I know in 9 months, it's time working with you. You want to do something different, we can reassign them to a different project, either within the company or outside the country. So organizations in Nigeria have to start looking at IT outsourcing, not owning the employee. You begin to look at talent as a service. So the good thing is we begin to see lots of Nigerian companies reach out, and we started offering talent as a service locally, because this takes iteration away from you. What is key as an organization is business continuity. So at every time T, you have the exact number of talents you need to work on your project, and you don't have to make much investment on skilling, which we will do for you. So I think that is the new number of work, because the average tech guys want to work on 5 projects together. He wants to work 16 hours. He's not willing to clock 8 to 5 with you. He wants to work from home. He wants to support someone in Nigeria and work with another guy in UK. So that is the future of work. And I think that will fix the talent gap.
Thank you. Just before I move on to Aseni Online, what I was going to say is those days, and I would say during my father's days, my father is over 70 years. And those days when you finish school, you almost, once you get a job, that is your job. You're most likely going to retire there. You know, my father worked for Shell and he retired there. Now, honestly, just as you said, you can barely get, someone to stay with. If you get someone to stay with for 2 years, I mean, you've done well as an employer. So it just speaks to how things are changing. But sorry, Asani, please. I hope we can hear you better.
Okay. Tech talents, as I say, as a gems now, and everyone looks for great, especially for fintech guys and girls all around the world. In this case, I guess the local talent program is a great idea, because the founders and its teams would be proud that their efforts can become a reality in a country they will live in. And no need to move on, and no need to check for the products a new market. They can build the products that exactly missing on the local market. And also, I would like to say about university. It's important to grow new talents through project education. It means when university start to support young startup guys, maybe they can do education program, business incubators, acceleration program inside, and when it's possible to how it's better to say, when they create teams inside of university, inside of course, and they create own project, a kind of a diploma course project as a startup. So when they create some projects with example managers and software engineers, and finally they defense as a master or bachelor project in the end of university. Also, so as long as they make them passionate about their products and its growth on a local or another region market, what also I would like to say, and sustainable pipeline, in my opinion, is support local tech and non-tech specialists, support and let local startups grow in the local market. And I guess it's necessary to let universities and corporations to do own inner entrepreneurship programs, because through entrepreneurship it's better to grow talents as well. I mean, it's possible to grow skills of people and discover the new skills and possibilities to do new things. Yeah, I guess briefly the main idea.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Destiny. To be fair, we struggled, but I was able to pick out something around universities. And I think that's really important, you know, how there's a lot of, you know, I think you also mentioned that people graduating, you know, like, did you say 600?
About 600,000.
600,000 people graduating every year. So there is a strong and solid pipeline. I think we can, you know, go into. Lekon, please, your views on this as well.
I think the entire educational structure needs to be overhauled. That's the first thing. Nigeria produces people that can pass exams, but people that don't understand analytics, problem solving, value propositions. And please, nobody shoot me, but I've never seen so many CVs of people that have studied mass communications in my life.
You've never seen?
I've never seen so many CVs of mass communication. I think it must be the most popular topic in Nigeria. Mass. So I think firstly, we need to think about what we actually want. So we need to produce or provide a pyramid educational structure that enables talent to rise from the bottom, from when people are in primary school all the way up to university. So when they enter the labor market, they're actually prepared and they have the correct skill sets to actually provide value to companies. Those skill sets might be specialists or they might be very transferable. But fundamentally, we're still producing or educating people in a manner that was probably ditched by most Western countries 30 years ago. The next step is actually to have properly accredited certifications and training processes. So the idea is whether you are a specialist in Microsoft coding or enterprise solutions, your skills are very transferable, and also it's recognized by any organization. So again, it goes back to the flexibility. But fundamentally, until we have an educational structure that enables us to rise up, I think we're still going to be very stuck. We're always swimming against the tide. Talent will always rise up. But fundamentally, the reason a lot of countries are able to develop and adapt is they have a holistic policy, idea, a short, medium, and long-term plan to enable people to transition from education to being part of the labor pool. And again, some companies succeed, some companies fail. But you never find situations where people who are part of quote unquote companies that have failed aren't able to then transfer their skills to other sectors. So we have very niche or very unnecessary skill sets that are produced that don't actually lead and grow towards Nigeria's future. Again, because we're talking about technology, so I think I'll focus on that. Like we said, the talent pool of engineers is very, very small, but that's only an element of the entire technology ecosystem. We talk about partnerships, we talk about understanding and articulation, the commercial elements of technology, disruption, how a fintech is going to affect the entire banking sector. You know, again, fintechs ourselves, we need to decide, do we want to be fintechs, or do we want to be glorified banks in a different name? So it's about identifying exactly what we want as a sector, and how does that affect other sectors? Are we going to bring in people that come from the banking sector naturally, or are we going to say to ourselves, we're going to come together and develop a framework and architecture to actually produce, educate, and train talent that seamlessly fits into what we want? I don't think the fact that people are migrating away from Nigeria is actually an issue. Like I said, we're always swimming against the tide in Nigeria. Universities are on strike, but still you have incredibly talented people that rise to the top. So clearly the pool is there, and people will always remain in Nigeria. Some people will never leave Nigeria because Nigeria is home. So to me, that is not a problem. The issue is how people are educated and the skill sets that it's embedded in them from a very young age all the way up to university. That fundamentally has to change.
No, thank you very much. And I think something key you've mentioned is that we need to start really early. Right now we're trying to solve from university, but others are already solving from primary school. I know Kenya recently introduced coding as part of their, curriculum for schools. What are we doing as well in Nigeria? And how can we? There are a lot of skills, problem solving. These are critical for any, exactly any job. So I totally agree with you. So I want us to wrap up very shortly, but I would like to hear from Oyin, just your views on what roles, and it's just like 1 minute, do you think, the government have to play, the private sector, what role do you think they should play in this? Because we've all agreed it's everybody's, it's everybody's problem.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone who doesn't have a role to play in improving the final good place we want Nigeria to get to, and our talent specifically. So we can start with government. So yes. He alluded to it earlier. The educational system just isn't churning out the type of talent that is required, either by tech companies or not. So yes, there's tech talent, but there's project managers, there's agile masters, there are salespeople who are still needed within the tech ecosystem. But a lot of people who've been churned out of universities are not appropriately educated to take up those roles. And we're uniquely placed because Nigeria's average age is 18, if I'm not mistaken. So we can take over the workforce in Nigeria and in Africa within the next 10 years. So the first thing is putting those educational structures in place, revamping the educational system to make sure that the talent being churned out can actually do the work required. From a private sector view, I think you referred to it earlier, Chichi, which is that you are the one that is going to employ these people. So it's in your best interest to make sure that they can do the job that you need them to do. So reaching out above and beyond your immediate, sales increase and making sure that you're putting some money back into schools and so on to make sure that the talent is appropriately can perform the services required, but also within your own company, investing in your talent as well. And then individuals, families, I always say it, you're responsible for your own destiny. There are opportunities out there for you to be as qualified as anybody else. And this thing is not theory. I work remotely, right? I didn't sleep till 4 a.m. I've done 9 to 5. I've done traveling from mainland to island, and now I work from home, and I'm a lot more productive. My employer is over enjoyment is what is worrying them, because they take so much of my time because I'm able to give it. So this thing is not theory. The opportunities are really there, but as an individual, you need to upskill yourself as well. Yeah, I think basically everybody has a part to play. Just think about, what do I want this country to look like? What do I want my own life to look like? And then do what's required to get there.
Okay, no, thank you so much. I'll come back to just summing up your points. But I think apparently we need to take a quick break, but we're going to remain here. There's a keynote address for about 10 minutes that needs to happen. And so we'll take that on, and then we'll come back for our Q&As. So I'll introduce Mr. Mark Elliott. He's going to speak about navigating the next normal. He's the division president of MasterCard Sub-Saharan Africa. So welcome, Mark. If you could go ahead, please. She's online.
Hi, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hi, I'm hoping that they will take me off and see my face. I can see into the room there, and maybe they can start showing my video. All right, maybe in the meantime, I should just get going. Is that the best thing to do? And hopefully...
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Set up your video.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Mark, and I'm the division president for MasterCard Sub-Saharan Africa. And it's just such a pleasure to join you in Nigeria FinTech Week. We find that events like these are just really important to drive innovation, foster collaboration, and form strategic partnerships, and accelerate positive transformation of our collective ecosystem. It's something that MasterCard's super passionate about, and we're proud of our legacy as we try to be a supporter of both end-user fintechs and fintech enablers. Together with our fintech partners, we're all looking for the best way to navigate the next normal, to form a new value chain and enable new technologies to enhance financial service provision across Africa. And you know, if you're in the technology sector like we are, there are a few adventures that are more exciting than this one. So, you know, to be successful in this adventure, we need to be mindful of the wider landscape and the context. The global economy is contracting, and IMF forecasts global growth to slow to 2.7% in 2023. With rising inflation, increasing food prices, and global supply chain issues, we can expect an impact on consumer spending. That said, fintech is actually doing quite well. Data shows that the number of global fintech unicorns was 6.5% more than it was in 2021 compared to 2020. Globally, $287 billion was collectively raised across 534 exits just last year. And you know, among these trends, we're expecting to see ground being gained, i.e. in an increased focus on cybersecurity automation to improve operating efficiencies, B2B solutions like becoming more attractive to fintech investors, especially in light of rising inflation, and a growing market in which businesses want to seamless enablement to expand new value propositions, and more data-driven solutions, finding unique ways to assess and utilize data in order for which is so important in the quest to differentiate offerings for both consumers and corporates. In addition, many fintech solutions are actively bringing more people into the digital economy, proving scalable financial services using the internet, blockchain, and algorithms. Fintech companies have widened the reach of financial services like loans, insurance, payments, investments, and wealth management. Africa is at the forefront of payments innovation, and Nigeria has a strong financial, tech, and domestic payments ecosystem. As a result, record funding is flowing into fintech startups across SSA. So far in 2022, the fintech space in Nigeria has already attracted over $500 million. Last year, 2 new unicorns emerged from Nigeria. Lagos has 20 million residents that are well positioned to benefit from most of the country's fintech solutions. But in a country of about 200 million, that leaves 90% of the population outside of the capital, eager for convenient digital products that can simplify and enhance life. Getting innovation into the more rural communities of Nigeria, West Africa, and further afield is a significant opportunity, as much for the commercial bottom line of fintechs as it is for social impact and wider inclusion. So I like to talk about trends. So let me talk about a few trends that are emerging. And against this backdrop of fast pace of change and transformation, these are the trends which we see popping. So funding and investment, we just spoke about that, are there for the right products and solutions, and it's leading to great interest and rapid expansion in the sector. We're also seeing increasing interconnectedness of a global marketplace and borderless transactions, driving opportunities for fintechs to scale. Of course, development is, just starting that video. Sorry, guys. Hi. So of course, development and infrastructure is important, and continued smartphone adoption will be a key driver for fintech adoption. Also, the recent developments of 5G in Nigeria, though still in its infancy, bodes really well for the country's future fintech progress. With 5G almost 100 times faster than 4G, It can deliver superior customer experience in terms of speed, bandwidth, seamlessness, and immersion. The focus on user-led experiences and customer expectations remains front and center. The greatest fintech innovations are those that eliminate pain points and reduce friction, bringing an effortless convenience to our fingertips. Talent is taking up more space in this picture as well. Local expertise and homegrown talent are critical to innovate with local relevance. Retaining that talent can be as essential during the scaling process when a balance of local know-how and global best practice is ideal. Finally, there's regulation, compliance, policy frameworks, and responsible governance. These are so important for a sustainable sector that can offer people and businesses a safe and secure space to engulf in financial technology. Proactive regulators have been friends of fintech in Africa and understand that fintech, really wants that supportive role in kind of that supportive market development area that we look for. A great example is last week's signing of the Nigeria Startup Act, which is very significant. It'll help us to encourage investment, talent retention, and prioritize attention to startups by government agencies and regulators. In the wider region, there are moves to prioritize affordable internet and mobile penetration while facilitating secure and rapid growth of fintech through innovative, bespoke regulation that supports the safe use of innovative technologies while minimizing risk. We can expect regulatory awareness and intervention to increase with a focus on accountability and dispute resolution for customer protection. The way forward also includes international agreements on data privacy, cybersecurity, and digital identification. Striking the right balance between enabling financial innovation and addressing the challenges and risks to financial integrity, consumer protection, and financial stability is absolutely critical. And at MasterCard, we work very closely with regulators and policymakers, as well as partners and innovators, to make sure that this is a safe space during this fantastic change that we're seeing. So yes, there's many ingredients in the mix and positive progress that can only come through collaboration, innovation, and enablement. After all, a thriving fintech sector is beneficial to all stakeholders. Wider inclusion is great for people and businesses, and more competitiveness, which helps us grow our diverse economies. A technology partner that innovates and co-creates with fintechs is critical. Technology sits at the heart of the sector's potential, and technology is driving product development, not just influencing it. And as a technology company, MasterCard is enabling, supporting, and partnering with fintechs to create more connections to the digital economy. We're helping to fuel the acceleration by co-creating solutions and offering wider access. We're also providing the services and tools fintech providers need. By giving them what they need, we're empowering fintechs to build new products, launch data-driven operational strategies, and also, importantly, grow their target segments. The enhanced potential of new and emerging technologies is exhilarating and boosting consumer take-up of new emerging payment methods. I'll just mention a couple of those which are top of mind. So buy now, pay later has become one of the hottest trends, with these payments expected to account for nearly a quarter of all global e-commerce transactions by 2026. Consumers are finding BNPL installments as a very useful budgeting tool to fund big ticket purchases, offer increased spending power. Biometrics are also very interesting, as it'll take convenience to a whole new level while boosting possibilities for digital identity solutions. Open banking is being used by consumers for a variety of tasks, including bill payments, credit scoring optimization, and also financial planning. Tap on Phone is a cheaper acceptance solution for merchants, which means they can avoid the outlay cost of expensive POS terminals and instead depend on a phone. Contactless, safe and secure. Proteus launched its Pay Contactless solution certified by MasterCard, and the Tap to Pay service introduced by Providus Bank, MasterCard InterSwitch, and Thales Group will stimulate innovation and drive the digital growth of payments in Nigeria. That collaboration also launched tokenization, which will provide further security to card users within the ecosystem. And then there's digital cards, like the Iwayo Better Card, certified by MasterCard, offer customers a seamless payment experience that eliminates the risk of card fraud by safely storing their payment credentials in the mobile app, from where they can then use it for safer payments. The mechanics of this delivery, done through digital channels, offers a huge advance in the customer experience. And underpinning all of that is great technology, but also bigger themes. Data. Data is the lifeblood of the fintech industry. Many fintech businesses, models actually rely on the data and the needs to secure it in line with global best practice. Cybersecurity is also in focus. And MasterCard's cyber intelligence solutions are also really designed to bring proactive peace of mind in this respect. So we continue to actively expand our capabilities, adding a multitude of differentiated services to power new ways to pay and enhance the customer experience. Our multi-rail expertise in expanding the suite of programs and services are designed all for the needs of the fintech community and provide an express lane for fintech companies of all sizes to build, launch, and grow. The technology and solutions we have are simple and straightforward so that any fintech builder can integrate and deliver solutions at a fast pace. So we're also, though, committed to sustainable impact on the fintech sector. At MasterCard, we want to see that impact come through. We want to keep on innovating with the bold and engaging partnerships that we can see who are moving so fast with agility. We continue to co-create and offer access to our partners to expertise, technologies, markets, and customers so fintechs can ultimately launch and grow. We've got our best-in-class APIs and data assets to our trusted ecosystem of partners. MasterCard provides these through the developer zone, which you can easily look up on your browser. And as the original fintech, we're excited about partnering with all of you with emerging innovators on disruptive solutions through the MasterCard Accelerate portfolio. It's a global single point of entry to MasterCard's wide portfolio of specialized programs, supporting startups through every stage of their growth, through transformation from market entry to global expansion. I spoke about MasterCard Developer Zone, but there's also MasterCard Engage. It's a free global program that identifies qualified technology partners to help and build and deploy solutions for fintechs, making it quicker and easier to work together. Then there's FinTech Express, designed to give fintechs wanting a direct license from MasterCard, as well as fintechs with the ambition to innovate through collaborating with ready-to-go MasterCard Engage partners. And then there's Start Path, our 6-month engagement program that actually helps latter stage startups to scale, has helped over 300 startups to tackle challenges and take advantage of opportunity across MasterCard's ecosystem of digital transformation, biometrics, cybersecurity, small businesses, open banking, and so much more. Earlier this year, Now Digital Systems was selected for the program, reshaping the marketplace for SMEs. Now provides reliable, best-in-class FS technology to SMEs, agents, and consumers to drive financial empowerment for all of its customers. Hello Tractor joined in 2020, putting the spotlight on agri-tech. It connects tractor owners to farmers through an Internet of Things-enabled digital solution that bridges the gap between manual and mechanized farming. This gives smallholder farmers easier access to affordable tractor services so they can plant on time and increase yields. So inclusion is also really important, and as a result of our fintech partnership and collaboration, whether it's agri-tech, helping SMEs, or P2P payments, fintech is building inclusion in Africa from the ground up. They're critical partners in our mission to connect 1 billion people to the digital economy by 2025. And at MasterCard, we're curating a global network of innovators to support a more inclusive, sustainable digital economy. We all thrive when fintech companies thrive and have access to the technology they need to thrive and to scale and to democratize finances. That's why we work with fintechs in 172 countries to power innovation and deliver seamless experiences that enable a more financially inclusive future for all. So in conclusion, there's a partner opportunity for all of us to collaborate and realize the potential of fintechs. The next normal is now, and the technologies to build the future are quite frankly here. Reaching that last mile remains as important as ever, particularly in Africa. Beyond supporting and encouraging the next generation of innovators, we must enable them. I strongly believe that through partnership, we can close this digital divide, co-create solutions and innovate for real impact. It's only through this collaboration that we can deliver scalable, secure, interoperable, and convenient payment ecosystems that will bring us closer to a cashless world. Together, we can navigate the next normal with confidence. We can create more connections to the digital economy and drive sustainable, inclusive growth in Africa to build a bright future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. Fantastic keynotes. I think we should give him another round of applause if he's still there. Thank you very much. So if
Thank you.
the organizers can confirm, I think we can continue on with the questions from the panel. So we can bring Asani back online.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank
Welcome back. So welcome back, everyone. I think that was a fantastic keynote on navigating the next normal, but we'll just bring you back into the panel so we can wrap up. I'll give a quick summary and then we'll take a few questions and I'll come back to the panelists to just give me your prediction over the next 10 years of where you see this talent thing going. So just a quick summary, just to remind you of where we left off. We agreed that some key things need to happen, a change of mindset. It's critical for employees today to be able to retain talent. We also agreed that you need to invest in talent, invest in people. That's going to be critical. We agreed that talent as a service is a new way to do business. So we should definitely consider that as a key, opportunity for us as employers as well. We also agreed that education needs to be looked at. We need to start early in terms of transforming our educational system to be able to really create that pipeline. And last thing we agreed, or one of the last things was that it's everybody's responsibility. So I'm going to open up to the floor. Hope I've managed to bring you back. Do you have any questions for, these key, speakers here today? Oh, we already have hands up. Okay. I think his came up first. So I see 3 hands, so we'll take those questions. Okay, please, can you go ahead? Just tell us who you are and your question, please.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kachi from Interfort, Nigeria. It's a nice discussion. I was really engaged in the conversation. So my question for the panel is, I happened to work with NIIT back in those days, a couple of years ago, and I had a lot of young guys and ladies back then who were learning their software skill and enhancing their skills, and they were quite very good at what they were doing. But there was a limit to what they could, how far they could go because they have not gotten their degree. So there is a lot of talent in, the software engineering field and even in the data science field that do not have their degrees yet. How can we tap into that talent, bearing in mind the Nigerian labor laws and all those restrictions around it? Please, I would want you to, help, throw more light on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll take the questions quickly and then we'll get people to respond. So 3 questions. Yeah, so.
Hello, my name is Salim. The discussion regarding, because I feel the whole panelists were focused on universities. A lot of discussion was around that. And this is a superposition I'm making on myself based on my understanding. And the question is, first, a confirmation if that is correct, and then the answer to the question. So just a background work. I feel personally that there's a disconnect between the industry and the university. The first point of contact, especially in Nigeria, with graduates is when they have written down their CVs and looking for a job. And the traditional mindset that is coming in is get a good degree, first class, second class, and you get a job. So that mindset is found in universities all through. So they just boil down to the handouts and cram and pass, and then they come to the market, and then the market is not looking for your first class or for your second class. It's looking for your skills. So personally, I feel that the disconnect, I don't know, I need a confirmation if that is there. And if that disconnect is there, how do we bridge it? Because I feel if we can bridge that disconnect between the industry and the universities, there'll be a lot of a skill set already coming in prepared. Software engineering, for example, most people are self-trained. The university is also a guideline. It allows you to self-train. So I believe if the industry can go in there, it will change the mindset of the kids coming out of university. So I don't know if the question is clear.
Yes, it is. It is. Thank you. We'll take the third question then.
All right. Good afternoon. Sorry, can you step back? My name is Oluchukwu Osai. I work with Woodcore. I want to ask a question and make a statement at the same time. And that is around, I want to make a case for funding for EdTech as a way of driving training, tech training in the sector. So the panelists have been speaking majorly on companies upskilling their staff. But I think, and I believe, and I'm also asking it as a question, that fintech institutions, especially those that offer some sort of financial facility loans and the sort, can design some sort of loan for trainings that Nigerians can take, to access some high-level trainings they will need to get important jobs and then pay back. And that way, we'll have more people having the opportunity to get trained without necessarily placing all of the burden of training on the companies or waiting until the government is able to fix our university system to teach people what they need to know to function profitably in the economy. So that's my question. Is it possible for the fintech sector to create facilities that people can access to get trained and be productive members of the society? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's one more question. We'll just quickly take that and, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. My name is Abiola Jimo. I work with ExchangeBox, and this is what I have as a suggestion and a question. So skilling, reskilling is mobile, and people are going to be leaving. There's going to always be that of capacity in the industry, and I'll tell you why. The industry is growing at the speed of light. Someone comes with an idea, you want to execute instantly. Even the developers is using probably don't have an idea of what is building, just pivoting, build an MVP that may probably scale or not scale and all that. So I think that one way we can work with FinTech Nigeria, because FinTech Nigeria deserves a lot of round of applause. If we can give them one night, to be nice. Thank you. But I think one way we can complement their efforts more, the engagement we're already having with the FinTech Nigeria can launch a pipeline or a funnel for us for capacity building or development. We can introduce FinTech Nigeria internship programs that list different capacities we need as industry operators and players, such that maybe from the penultimate year, so the engagement with the university is not coming as in silos. Korape goes, ExchangeBox goes, I go to the university, and it's very distorted. It's not coordinated. If we can have FinTech Nigeria collate our skills need, recurrently that we always do need, with people like the trainers there, with universities, and say, let your students apply for internship in data analysis, UI, UX, software engineering. Even nano degrees now does not require you to really be physically on ground. So a lot of people are doing skilling on their own. And with that, we can begin to define what we need to grow the industry. Because one of the biggest problems we're all facing, I don't know if other people are facing, is that you employ someone, you waste 6 months, they don't know jack. And then when they know, another company pitch and take them away, pays them higher, it frustrates him. So I think we can solve this problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more suggestion, but let me close it.
Yeah, for now, we'll
Bye-bye.
come back then, but we appreciate your suggestion. So what I'll do just for time is if every speaker can just take one of the questions. The first one is about the no degree and what can be done. What do you think? It looks like, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll answer that question in light of my experience as the head of HR now. So for each department, for each skill set, I would usually advise that. So for instance, like the previous speaker mentioned, Nigeria's tech talent is highly self-taught. They're highly, self-trained. There's no sort of school or degree per se that's like standardized here. Most people would go online, take courses, or perhaps they had the opportunity to travel out and come back in. So I usually advise hiring managers, instead of looking for the first class and the, top universities, why don't you look for teachability, soft skills, in addition to what they have already practicalized? So of course you would give them tests as well to test their knowledge, practical tests. Why don't you give them that sort of test and then balance it with a soft skill? Are they adaptable? Can they be taught? Are they patient? Are they humble enough for you to, train them and take them on? So instead of looking for already established, full-blown software engineers, which is very hard to get, you could balance it out with soft skills. Bring these people in. Some people really quick to learn, really quick to catch on. And before you know it, they're actually at par with these other people. So that's what I usually do. I advise hiring managers, balance it out with soft skills. Don't insist on 10-year experience, 5-year experience. If they're able to be teachable, if they're, adaptable, that's good enough in my books.
Okay, thank you. And just to quickly say that some organizations have reduced their hiring. So I know a lot of banks were 2-1 and above, but I know that they've recently come down to 2-2 to solve this issue. So the next question, we're almost done now, quickly, is just talking about the disconnect between the industry and, did you want to take the industry and I guess the skills, the people? I think Lekon said he'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, you're completely right. There's a complete disconnect. And it goes back to that silo mentality of I'll do what I want and what I need, not what the industry needs or what the industry wants. That's the first thing. The second thing is, again, it goes back to what I said earlier about the educational structure. Like you said, people are looking for first class, second class degrees. And for me, the solution is very clear. Whether it is technology, engineering, law, whatever it might be, there needs to be almost like a conveyor belt of mentoring, development, medium, long-term plan, whereby people progress from university with the correct skill set, experience, be it internships, and they then get mentored by an entity. And from there, if they're able to meet the requirements, they progress and they're guaranteed a contract, even if it's for just for 1 year or 2 years initially. So it brings stability to the process of not just the industry investing in specific, I don't want to call it like baby farms, but almost like a chicken battery whereby you prep them for what you require. And they come and you're like the oven and you put them in the oven, you roast them and you eat them. It's that mentality of creating that process flow from start to finish that needs to be established. Again, as an individual, education is not cheap. And if you're paying for your own tuition fees, your university fees, you want to know there's some sort of, not necessarily insurance or guarantee, but there's a high probability you're going to get employed. So if you're going to go into a very niche requirement, if it's algorithm engineering, for example, you want to know there's a company out there that'll say, do you know what, we are either going to guarantee you a job for 2 years post-university, or we're going to pay half your tuition fees. These kind of frameworks need to be developed across the board. Like I said, we need to progress from, I'm just going to get a first-class degree, then I'm going to go out into the job market and look for a job, survival of the fittest mentality. We want to see a clear framework of people progressing from university to industry. Again, the whole ecosystem mindset has to change. You know, you have situations where lecturers are failing students because they don't buy their notes and all these kind of things. So that entire mindset and those silos need to be broken down. And once that happens, you know, like I said, I'm pretty confident. I'm not worried about migration because there's enough talent in Nigeria, but it's about ensuring people are equipped with the correct skills and actually getting educated or taking on degrees that enables them to add value to whatever sector that might be. It doesn't have to be technology or fintechs.
Thank you. And if she would allow me, let's just take the last question. And I think it was more of a comment. He was talking about, the importance of edtechs in this, matter and how they can play a role and how they should be funded. But I think I can just quickly say that there's work I know by some organizations like Semicolon and Co who train people, they pay for their own trainings themselves. And, when they come back, they get jobs and they repay. So I think we can talk more about that after the session as well. So I think we'll come to a close. I'd have loved for us to give our 1 minute prediction, but we don't have time. Maybe we can do it online of where we see the industry going over the next 10 years. We can do that online. Thank you so much.
A round
Thank
of
you,
applause for our
Anthony, as well.
panelists and the moderator, please. We'll take quick pictures. It's been an insightful session. And every time we talk about this topic in any space, it always brings conversations and comments. However, we need to close this session to go on with another. But please, our panelists and moderator, hopefully they will stay around so that during lunch session, people can walk up to you and network with you. So I'm hoping that they stay around so that we can network with them. Please, let's come together. I'd like to invite the president, vice president of FinTech NGR, as well as the COO, and any member of the board of trustees of FinTech NGR to please join the photographs.
Should I stay or should I turn off?
Okay, can you space for them? Thank you very much. It was an insightful session. And one thread that I saw that was common to this session was the need to upskill, reskill, and outsource talents. Very important comments that all of them in one way or another echoed. So a big thank you to our panelists and the moderator for doing a great job on that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a quick announcement. And this is exciting. We're going to have a raffle today, a raffle draw today after lunch. We're going to have a raffle draw, and the winner walks away with the Huawei MatePad tab. So you can walk away with this at the raffle draw. Now, some people are thinking, oh, I have this MatePad tab already. But even if you don't want it for yourself, win it for your neighbor or win it for someone beside you. So please, don't go anywhere. Be around till the end. If there's no neighbor around you that wants the MatePad tab, please win it for me. I'd like to get it. So please don't go anywhere after lunch. We'd like you to come back and be a part of the sessions. I mean, apart from the raffle draw, there's a lot of insightful sessions coming after lunch. But before we break for lunch, for the exhibition tour, for games and networking, we've got an important presentation. And this one is focused on e-government, e-filing, identification, and financial inclusion drive. Challenges, opportunities, and solution. And to take this presentation, I'd like to invite virtually the Director of IT at the National Identity Management Commission, Chuks Onyepunuka, for this brief session. Over to him, he'll be joining us virtually.
Hello? Hello?
Good afternoon. We can hear you clearly. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon all. This is Chuks Onyepunuka, Director, IT/Identity Database. I'm here representing my DG, who obviously would have been the one that would have done the presentation. But on his behalf, he has asked me to do that. So I'll be sharing my screen. So based on the topic, which he has asked me to do, is identity ID system, the journey so far. So I'm going to take you through our ID project, the journey so far, right from when the act establishing NIMSI was enacted. So I'm going to share my screen so that, let's see. Are you seeing my screen? Hello?
Yes, we can see your
Hello?
screen, please.
Okay.
Yes,
fine.
we can see your screen, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, fine. So hold on. So my presentation for Nigerian FinTech Week 2022 on identity project, the journey so far. That's my presentation outline. I will take you through national identity overview, why identity matters for development, digital ID, and digital economy, digital ID project components, then our strategic approach to ID development, the ecosystem approach, goals of nation building, then the ecosystem in nation building, the potentials to nation building, the ID implementation targets, then roles and responsibilities of stakeholders, then the 8 pillars of the digital economy, what we have been able to achieve, NIMSI has been able to achieve to date, then the progress on digital identification, project implementation, effective policy implemented, other progress made at a glance, the data growth, then the total monthly enrollment at a glance since 2012, distribution of over 18,000 enrollment centers across Nigeria. Nigerian markets have strong correlation with ID, then gender ratio, new developments, then conclusion and final thoughts. Truly, as you know, no nation truly can be a sovereign state if it does not know its people or have a unique way of identifying them. Yeah, I listened to some earlier presentation and where the emphasis is laid in terms of the identity of Nigerians. And of course, how some of the services in Nigeria, government services and private sector services, how they can leverage on the national ID. So for us to be able to do all these things, first and foremost, we need to know our people. We must have a unique way of identifying them. The government knowledge of knowing its people is very fundamental to our planning and development transformation. If you don't know the people, you don't know your people, and you don't even know the number, how do you plan? And then how can you come up with a lot of development transformation initiatives? It becomes very difficult. So you really need to be able to identify your people and know the numbers, know where they stay, where they live, so that when you are coming up with any program, that program will be targeted at this set of people because you know them. But as it is, if you don't know them, it will be a problem. So for you to know your people, you have to know them from birth. And that is from birth registration. You need to register them at birth. And the stand issuance of unique identifier through national system, identification for life. So once a child is born, right from that very moment, the child should be registered. And there must be a unique way of identifying that child. And that will be from birth up until death. So there must be a unique way of doing that. So this knowledge is tends to who you are, where you live, social and economic circumstances. So establishing a foundational ID is first step to providing access to basic government services and private services. It's not just government services. I have to add private services, because if you talk about opening accounts, of course, you need to know your customer, you need to know the person. If you talk about loans, you need to know the person you are giving loan. Indeed, part of what led to NIMSI being established is because of the fact that during the time of president, the former president Olusegun Obasanjo, they were talking about credit facilities. How can Nigerians have access to credit to be able to get some things, And they did some investigations. There were some discussions that went around it, and then discovered that the key problem they're having is being able to identify these Nigerians, know them. So, but there was no basic means of doing that. So, in order to make sure that Nigerians are able to have access to government services and other services as it relates, that was how NIMSI, the reason for NIMSI being established, a law was enacted to establish NIMSI so that this can address that gap. And today, I'm happy that quite a number of organizations, stakeholders have realized that before anybody can have access to a service, they need to know the person. You need to know where the person stays. It's very, very key to the growth of the economy. So why do identity matters? Inclusiveness and trusted ID system can help achieve the goals of empowering individuals and enhancing their access to rights, services, and the formal economy. Strengthening the transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness of governance and service delivery, like I've said, in the beginning, that will ensure that supporting private sector development and service delivery, growing the digital economy, then regional global integration. Hello, I hope people are hearing me. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hear you, sir.
Okay, fine. Because there was a disconnection at some point. That was what happened. Yeah.
Yes, you were disconnected at about 2 minutes to go, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, yeah, fine. Yeah, growing the digital economy, regional and global integration. So let me just quickly go straight to digital ID and digital economy. How do we marry the two? National ID system and civil registration and vital statistics are very critical to foundational ID for transformational development. Proving one's identity is critical to participating in social and political life. Government and firms require ID to deliver services. Number one, financial services require ID for know your customer, which is very critical to the financial institutions, which is very critical to all the banks and other financial institutions. If you don't know the person you are dealing with, you cannot give the person loan, you cannot transact with the person. So ID is very key to delivering services to our customers. Social safety net rely on unique ID to offer cash cash transaction to beneficiaries. That is very key. The mobile connectivity access requires digital ID for persons. As it is now, you cannot acquire new phones, maybe get a new SIM card or do a SIM swap or even register for data without the person's ID. Remember linking name to SIM. That is very key. That way you know the person you are communicating with, the person who is using whatever that is, using whatever network access or whatever access the person needs to have is very, very key. Then securing a digital ID is a gateway to greater social welfare and development progress for the people. The digital identification program is a key component under our economic agenda. Individual participation in the digital space is also very key. Digital ID is key to building trust for digital economy, driving it digitally driven social and economic interactions. Digital ID project components. There are three major components: strengthening the legal and regulatory framework. The second one is building a robust foundational system that's scaling up enrollment in ID. Then the next one is ensure access to services, of which we all know, financial services, government services, and many other services as it relates. What is the strategic approach that we have adopted? We're leveraging on the capacity of the stakeholders in the ecosystem to reach full coverage. What has happened before now is that NIMSI, we were doing the enrollment, we were capturing, but we discovered that if we continue and then do some computations, it will take years, over 10 years, for us to be able to enroll all Nigerians. So what happened is, okay, there are MDAs, there are private sectors who have this capability to be able to capture, enroll Nigerians, and we'll be able to cover this within 3 to 5 years. So that was what led to the ecosystem. So if you look at what we have, you will see NIMSI. What we're meant to do is to be a regulator. Just store the information, the national identification number records, to store it. And then the next one is to make sure that we set standards for data and also certifies the field operators, regulate ID ecosystem. That is what NIMSI is meant to do. But in terms of enrollment, we're leveraging on the capacity of all the other stakeholders, like the MPOPs, like state agencies, local government, private sectors, we have a civil society. The private sectors, we have about 214 private sectors who are licensed to actually participate in the enrollment of our citizens. So that is currently happening. Thank you very much, sir. We started that in about, okay. I'll soon finish, yeah. I'll soon finish. We started that about a year ago. And as I talked to you, we have enrolled over 90 million Nigerians. Then what we have also done in the course of this ecosystem approach is to reduce the number of fields that we capture. Before now, we used to capture about 80-something fields. But as it is, we are capturing a minimum, 10 data fields key. However, it could be, there could be cases where, based on special requirements, we can add fewer fields. But as it is, it's 10 fields we're focusing on. That will help us to wrap up the enrollment. The goals of nation building. Please just give me a minute. I'm almost done.
All right, sir, 1 minute, sir, to quickly wrap up.
Okay, fine. So I will go through the details of this. So let me just go straight to, the potential of ID system. What happens? What does it do? we have financial inclusions there. You know, we also social safety net, women empowerment, health, migration and travels, voting, and then education. These are areas where the application, where you can use our identification ID system to deliver services. So this is just roles and responsibility of stakeholders in the ecosystems. You can see where CBN is. If you look at what, in terms of payments, CBN, which of course is a financial regulator of financial systems, you can see the tick there. They collect. They also collect one form of ID, like the BVN. So, and then issue payment services. So there are different kind of rules and responsibilities as it relates to stakeholders. Then under the A pillars, we're under Ministry of Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy. These are some of the achievements that we have. We have policy and institutional framework of our identity management system in Nigeria. These are a number of policies that we've actually put in place. Then in terms of literacy, we have trained both NIMSI staff on advanced technology for the ID project. We have trained our license operators, the agents capturing on their behalf. We've done a number of training and we've done a number of sensitization.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chukwu. We'd love to go ahead. We'd love to go ahead, but because of time constraints, we may need to stop here. If you would please just take final words, perhaps a final sentence. Would love to go ahead and engage, but because of time constraints, would appreciate if you would take final words. Thank you so much for an insightful session. Please, final words, sir.
Okay, my final words will be for us to be able to provide services to Nigerians, and for Nigerians to be able to have access to services like opening accounts, financial inclusion. There is need, it's mandatory that Nigerians are issued national identification numbers, because with that, at least you know who your customers are, and you'll be able to deliver services to them, and they'll be able to have access to the credit facilities, which of course is one of the main functions of financial institutions. So my take is that we need to support this ID system project and also leverage on what NIMSI is doing to be able to deliver services to Nigerians, and also delight them in the cost of delivering these services. That is my take. Yeah.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for him, please. Thank you very much for joining us virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for lunch. We break now for lunch to come back by 3:20 p.m. West African time. So if you're joining in from any part of the world, it's just about 40 minutes break. So please come back by 3:20 p.m. and we'll continue. Now, just a quick teaser before we go for lunch. When we come back, remember I talked about the raffle draw. We will do that. Apart from the raffle draw, we're also going to have insightful sessions on cybersecurity. Now, this is a session you don't want to miss. There's a keynote, and then there's a breakout session focused on cybersecurity. So this will do you a lot of good. It will do all of us a lot of good. So please go for the lunch and then come back in 40 minutes at 3:20 p.m. to be a part of the session. The session resumes at 3:20 p.m. Thank you very much. My name is Temi Badru.